as town council members. We will begin with their 2-minute opening statements. And we begin with Connor Schneider.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this candidate forum. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Connor Schneider, a third-generation resident of Aurora. Specifically, I'm from the wonderful hamlet of West Falls. Currently, I am in my final year at the University of Buffalo School of Law and work for our village attorney as his law clerk. Before law school, I started my education right here in East Aurora, attending Parkdale Elementary and Main Street Middle School. From there, I went on to Canisius High School and then studied political science at the Catholic University of America. Over the years, I've held various positions at the U.S. House of Representatives, UK House of Commons, American Bar Association, U.S. Attorney's Office, and the Erie County District Attorney's Office. During my college summers, I also worked a road construction job, painting lines on the road all across the state, saving up enough money to pay my way through college and law school. I decided to run for a councilman position because, like all of you, I love our town. And as someone who's lived here my whole life, almost 24 years, I understand the needs of our community and realize that the town's greatest asset is its people. That is why I started my campaign. That is why I started my campaign on a platform of people over politics, and decided to run on my own without the support of a major political party. I made this decision because I looked at the current town board and witnessed their fortitude and ability to put the town's best interests first before partisan politics. Inspired by this, I knocked on hundreds of doors in the village and town, asking residents to sign my petition to get my name on the ballot. Because of these efforts, I came in first place among 3 Republican candidates. Similarly, I also decided to create my own party line on the ballot, which I've named the Integrity Party. If elected to the town board, I hope to build upon the successful policies of our current town leaders and work together to put people first and ensure our community never loses its desirable, quaint, rural nature that has made it such a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jim Granville, running for town board. The reason I'm running for town board, I look around the room, is the reason why I moved to East Aurora. The reason why everyone in this room lives in the town of Aurora. If you went to high school here and stayed, if you heard about it from a friend and moved here, if you got transferred to East Aurora for your employment and decided to stay. Fisher Price, Millard Fillmore, Abigail Fillmore, Vidlers, Roycroft, the list goes on and on. What town in the world buys land or has people that buy land just so you can sit down in the overlook and look at beauty? It's an amazing place. We have the 3rd of July fireworks. 40 family members of mine come in, and my wife's family as well, come in to celebrate that in East Aurora. It's an amazing place. We have a terrific town board. 2 of the people on the board are leaving though, so we have to look to the future. What is the future? The future, in my belief, is a master plan. When I decided to become an attorney, I went to college and I studied hard. I got into a good law school. I interned at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and my first job was at the Erie County District Attorney's Office. When my wife and I began to have a family, we needed a bigger house. We didn't have to look far, we looked to East Aurora. We knew it was safe, we knew the schools were amazing, and Claire's family grew up here, my family grew up here as well, and it really became the easiest choice to live here. A master plan is what we do for our own family, where we have our kids go to school, when we have them study hard, when we have a 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan in the future. A master plan will put us 30 years into the future, and it's a plan that we can develop ourselves.
I'm sorry that we're not as popular as the sheriffs, but this is still something that's very important. Even closer. Oh, wow. My name is David Pelton, and I'm applying for the job of town councilman. I say that because this is actually a job application. It's a job interview process. It's one of the most lengthy, tortured, difficult processes. And everyone up here is doing this because we love our town. And we're willing to sacrifice our time and our effort and our energy for the town. So how do you choose between us? It would be the same way that you choose between any other candidates for a job. You want to look at their qualifications. You want to look at their experiences. You want to look at what are their motivations and their stances on the issues. And we're going to get to the issues in a little bit. But right now I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I came to East Aurora 18 years ago from Florida. Okay, there's not a lot of people that would make that choice, but I have. Because this is such a great town, and for the reasons that he stated. And one of the things that he left out is that it's a safe place. How many people don't even lock their doors because they know that this is a safe place? I wouldn't encourage that anymore. But a big part of why it's safe is because of our able police department. And when I go door to door, that's one of the #1 things that we do need to preserve is the safety and security of our town. I've been practicing law since 1993. I have my MBA, both with honors from top schools, and this is such a difficult thing to cram in 30 years of a career into just a few seconds. But I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your interest in being here tonight. Thank you.
My name is Joe McCann. I'm also a candidate for town board, and the first thing I'd like to do is thank the League of Women Voters. This is a wonderful event, and I think it's very informative and an excellent opportunity for everyone to learn more about us. I'm a married father of 3. I have 3 wonderful kids, and I have a wonderful wife. She's back there, Jill. She likes to be pointed out a lot. I've been in the town of Aurora for 22 years. My draw to the town of Aurora was my grandparents. I grew up, they lived on Lawrence Avenue. And they were my absolute respite, and they were the place I came, and Aurora was the happiest place on earth. It was my Disney World growing up. So when we were married, I actually moved here on the night before our wedding. I occupied our apartment for the first time, and then brought my wife back after that, and we've never left. Aurora is a wonderful community, and the way I look at it is it's not ours. No, it belongs to none of the people in this room. We borrow it from the next generation. As I drive through other communities, Williamsville, Amherst, Cheektowaga, Lancaster, they have a lot to offer. They have a lot of retail, they have a lot of places to shop, a lot of national chains, but they don't have what Aurora has. We have a vibrant community in our village of small businesses and small business owners that give back to the community. We have a rural town. That is what we need to preserve. That is my belief. Our job, all of our jobs on the stage, is to hand off a better town than the one that we found. And I firmly believe that is our job #1. As far as my experience, I'm a compliance officer for the New York State Gaming Commission. I do audits all day long. I look for bad things. I look for things that are wrong, and I correct them. And that's exactly the job skill set that I'm going to bring to the town of Aurora as an Aurora Town Councilman. Thank you very much.
I'm asking that everyone wait until the end of the entire section for your applause. So the first question goes first to Connor. For Aurora, can you identify 3 goals you plan to achieve in your first board term? Or instead of that, I'm going to say, please identify 3 goals that you expect to achieve during your first board term.
Certainly, thank you. #1, my whole platform is people over politics and transparency and carrying on the great work that our current town board has done. #1, I think what we need to do is enact a comprehensive plan to ensure that our community maintains its quaint rural nature. #2, along the lines of transparency, I think we need to make an effort to get a social media presence for our town. We also need to increase upon that. Third, I think that we need to look at ways that we can establish historic commissions to preserve certain historical buildings in our town and revitalize areas of our community that have been historically neglected over the years. Thank you.
I mentioned in my opening, my first goal is to get the community together and talk about where do we want to be in 30 years? Where do we want to be in 50 years? What type of community do we want to create so that our children who are successful, who are going to college, maybe out of town, meeting friends out of town, want to come back to East Aurora? Vidlers, Roycroft are wonderful, but we want to get something that'll bring the youth back. And what do we do? How do we do that? My goal is, one of the first things I would like to do is propose that the town board recognize the Erie Cattaraugus Rail Trail. That is something that is inevitable. That is something that is going to be a wonderful thing for the community. And the third thing is to connect the Buffalo Cattaraugus Trail to East Aurora. And how do we do that? We bring in funds and we create bike paths and bike trails to do that. We create green energy, and you'll have to hear the rest later. Thank you.
It's kind of hard to narrow the list down to 3 things, but I'm going to say the first and foremost priority for me is to work on the teamwork. As Connor alluded to, there's a lot of backdraft within our community, some divisiveness that occurs on the national level that boils down to our local level. And we need to get over that. We have great neighbors, we have great friends. I've shared meals with these guys. I haven't had a chance to do it with Connor yet, but I've been friends with these guys for 18 years since I came to town. And I see other people in the background and in the audience that I know and respect, and I believe they respect me, and we debate national politics on a very friendly level. The disregard for one another and disrespect, we need to find a way to work around that, because it's only when we work together. We need to increase the participation of the public. Thank you.
As I spoke to in my first opportunity, maintaining the rural character of our town is really the number one. We're not going to sell out for the quick buck. Too many communities have done that, and they've regretted it. Joe and Jeffy, who's stepping down, not running for re-election, made the point that we're no longer an agricultural society. The time to save that was 20 years ago. Well, the time to save our rural character is now. So that would be my number one priority, to make sure that we don't sell out to national developers. Number 2 is we have the opportunity. We have environmental partners, Buffalo Niagara Waterkeeper being one, that are perfectly happy to work with us to preserve our green spaces, prevent runoff in North Creek. That's the water that runs out of the next community and down to the lake. And lastly, Route 240 in West Falls is in desperate need of repair. It has major flooding issues. In that line, I brought Senator Tim Kennedy, who's the chair of the Senate Transportation Committee, out with Dave Gunner, and he saw the situation firsthand and pledged to make it a priority to make repairs on that road. Thank you.
All right, the next question will go first to Jim Granville. This is a several point question, I'll put it that way. What is the most pressing issue facing the town of Aurora? And then, related to that, what should families with young children be paying close attention to, and what are your positions on those 2 issues? So what's the most pressing issue? What should families of young children be paying close attention to? And what's your position on those issues?
I may have to hold up the green card halfway through that. The most pressing issue right now that I think when I talk to people who, especially who live in the village, who want to come into town from the village, is that it is crowded and not in a good way. It's very difficult to get down Main Street. I appreciate that the businesses are benefiting from that, But one of the reasons that it is so crowded, one of the reasons that children have difficulty crossing the street in this town is because there has been unplanned development. Unplanned development. I may have neighbors here in this room from the Aurora Mills, but that was unplanned development. That is house after house after house after house going onto Mill Road without a plan for how they're going to enter onto Quaker Road, how they're going to enter onto Hamburg Road, how they're going to cut through neighborhoods and get over to Center. That is a priority. That is something, again, that I think affects our quality of life. And the reason we live here is because of the great quality of life. So that is an important, that is something that I think is extremely important.
For me, I think the most pressing issue is not that recreational adult use marijuana has been legalized, but how is the town going to manage it? There's nothing that we can do about the legalization process, but there's a lot that we can do about managing how it's going to affect our town. And if I was still with small children, I would be paying attention to what are the leaders saying about how are they going to manage what's coming without harm to the children, without undue exposure. And along these lines, I've already taken action and pointed out to the present board that you can smoke marijuana anywhere you can smoke tobacco, and they were not aware of that, and they've started taking some action on that. There are a lot of different aspects, not just whether we're going to have a dispensary or not. This is a multifaceted problem, and there's a lot of different things that we need to do, and the work needs to be done now so we're prepared for it.
So as far as most pressing goes, I really think we have a double-edged sword in our town, and that is our property values. We've all seen our property values increase dramatically, and that seems like a good thing, but as anybody who does the math knows, it's imaginary money because you can't sell your house. You want to find another house to move into with all your profits. So I think that's a pressing issue. We have people who live in this community their entire lives, and and when it's time to get out of their house, they don't have senior housing. And on the other end of things, we have families that are raising small kids that might want them nearby when they're grown up and they start having kids of their own, and we don't have affordable housing for our young families. So that's something, I don't have the silver bullet for that, but I think we want to make sure that our community is inclusive of multiple economic levels and that people can remain in their community through their golden years and enjoy the community that they grew up around. So that's, I truly believe that that is the most pressing issue, and that's also an issue for parents with young children. Because I think most people don't want to see their kids move across the country just to find job and housing opportunities. So it's something we need to plan for long term. Thank you.
Not to reiterate a lot of the same things that have been already said, but absolutely development going forward. The more land we clear, the more runoff issues there are, the more strain there is on our infrastructure, our roads. It's just, we have to be mindful and smart with our growth. Drive out towards, Boys Road. You see all these new houses popping up. The Mill Road development, it's all unplanned. I think that enacting a comprehensive plan, taking a look at our town, and realizing, where we have room for growth and how we want it to look going forward into the future. I think that is one of the most pressing issues for our town. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question goes first to David. Are you in favor of a master plan, and why? And then, what is a master plan?
Yes, of course, I am in favor of a master plan. It's pretty simple. If you fail to plan, you panic to fail. And a lot of what they're talking about here with respect to development out in the town is part and parcel of the master plan. We do have a master plan. It's not been formally adopted, but it has been the product of a lot of work from some very smart people, including Jolene Jeffy and Sue Freese, and their loss on the board is going to be a tremendous loss. And it's going to be a privilege for any of us to step up into those shoes and try to pick up where they have left off. Councilman Luke Lutensky also has been part of that. And the zoning is an issue, and we keep putting things on hold, having moratoriums so that we can make those adjustments. And that's going to be a continuing, ongoing process.
So if it's okay, I'm going to answer those questions in reverse order. The master plan is exactly that. It's a plan for our zoning, for our entire community. The problem is, the town can have the best of intentions and the best of plans, but a skilled lawyer, skilled litigator can come in and destroy those plans. If you're not consistent, if you participate in spot zoning, meaning you put a business in the middle of a residential area or a business in the middle of a rural area, they can use that against you to expand those. So by having a master plan, by having a map that shows exactly where our businesses are going to go, where our rural areas are, where our rural residential is, B1s, B2s, those are the size of businesses. Right now our B1 is a 5,000, our B2 is a 55,000 square foot facility. That's going from a barber shop to a Walmart warehouse. So the current board, to their credit, is taking this on, and they're going to adjust that. They're going to make sure there's nuance in our zoning so we control our future. And this came about during the deliberations on the Rural Outreach Center, a wonderful community program. They wanted to build a 9,000 square foot building, and we weren't able to accommodate it. So it made us realize, made the entire town realize we need more nuance. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I am in favor of a master plan or comprehensive plan. A master plan is a tool authorized by New York State. It's in town law, I forget the exact statute number, but it's a tool given to local municipalities to design their communities the way they want it to be, to formulate your comprehensive plan, to think about what are the goals and objectives you want long-term for your community. For me, it is preserving the rural character that has made Aurora the wonderful place it is to live. And I think that going forward, it is important because, as Joe said, without a comprehensive plan, any decision the town board makes could be challenged in court. So it is absolutely imperative that the town formally adopts the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
If you don't know what a master plan is yet, about 15 years ago, the town got together, and I would say probably as many people as in this room commented on what we wanted to see our community look like in the future. And money was spent. New York State, Erie County, Marilla, Wales, Holland, Aurora, all put their efforts together to develop a plan for their own future. The citizens of those towns got together and said, this is what we want our town to look like in the future. Every one of those other towns adopted it into law. Aurora did not. A skilled attorney can come in and say, why can my client not build here? This is a B2. This is a Walmart-sized area. Why can't I build here? Because we don't want you to. If we have a master plan that says this is where we want to be in the future, this is the zoning that we want to have in these areas to preserve the character, it's going to be very difficult for anyone to build outside of those zones.
All right, the next one is about electric charging stations, and it goes first to Joe. Electric charging stations, why should they be free, or should there be a charge?
That sounds like a joke I would make, but you got a better laugh out of it. So absolutely, I argued before our town board recently. So charging was free behind the town hall, and the reason for that was they didn't have to pay for the software, and after 3 years they had to start paying $300 a year for the software, so the town board decided they should recoup that and not sort of make it a subsidy to the community. I personally think that was a mistake because I'm the kind of guy who always looks for the free thing. I'm going to look for free when I'm out searching for things. If it's 20 cents, if it's $1, it's not going to show up on my search. That I believe there's more value in having electric car owners behind our town hall, which are our only current charging stations, for 3 hours. 1, 2, 3 hours. That's how long it takes to charge an electric vehicle. They might sit in their car and read a book. I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to go to Fiddler's. I think think they're gonna have a sandwich, I think they might have a beer. And all that has way more value than the, I believe it's 10 cents a kilowatt hour we're currently charging. So we're recouping 30 cents when we might not show up on the search list for free charging stations, and we might lose that captive audience of electric car owners who I would argue have more disposable income than your average bear. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to say that the town board has done a great job trying to make this building next door happen. And one of the great things that came along with that is the electric car charging station. I think that it's an important asset for the community if we want to encourage people to use electric cars. And like Joe says, they don't charge instantaneously. It's a subsidy that we as a town are willing to make to encourage people to get electric cars, and and they're going to spend money while they charge. I absolutely think that it's the town should provide that service.
I absolutely agree. I think Joe is absolutely correct. He made a point to the town board that why are we charging 30 cents when it should be free. If I have an electric car, I probably have a charging station at my house. The benefit is to have somebody who's coming from outside to spend 3 hours, as Joe just said, to go down Main Street. Why not put it, if we can, at the parking lot on the west end of town so they can spend some time and money over there? Why not put one in West Falls so that people can spend some time and money there? If it takes, we have such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful area that people, it is one of the most desirable towns in Western New York. People come here and just look at Saturday, Sunday and try and cross the street. If we can do that and we can attract additional revenue from people who are going to be coming out here anyways to stay just a little bit longer, to extend their trip, to maybe, instead of going to Orchard Park for the day, come out to East Aurora. If they're heading to the south, stay here just a little bit longer. I think it's absolutely essential.
So we've been talking a little bit about looking into the future, and electric cars are part of the future for everybody, but including for our town. And as we enable people that adopt that technology to visit us, it's a great thing. And supporting the infrastructure is a great thing. Part of the problem that we have right now as a town, though, is we don't actually know what the costs are and what's going to be the burden on the taxpayer. Because in theory, it's great that people are going to come and spend money, and that sales tax money reduces the liabilities that we have to make up through taxing our real estate. But we don't know what those metrics are. The town board has done a good job investing in the software so we can see how much is it really being used, who is using it, and then whether costs are going to be appropriate as a burden on the taxpayer, or should it be on the people who are using it.
All right, so the next question goes first to Connor. How do you intend to reach out to the other side?
I'm not sure what the other side is, but I think that if you look at the current leadership that our town board has, we currently have 4 Republicans and 1 Democrat, but if you ever attend a town board meeting, you wouldn't tell who's who, because they all get along. This mutual cooperation between the town and the village is also incredible. The fact that we have 2 municipal governments sharing 1 building is incredible. The village has more people that are left-leaning, the town has more people that are more right-leaning. It's incredible that we're able, as this community, to come together and put people first over politics.
It sounds savvy, building relationships. We have, again, we talk about a great town board. We're trying to keep that going, but look into the future. Connor Schneider, hadn't met you before this election. I know you're a law student at UB. I know you have a house that I think your grandfather built or started in West Falls. Dave Pelton, Your daughter and my son Ben played basketball together, went to school together, and I've known Dave for many, many years. Joe McCann has taught me how to use Facebook. So for better or worse, I appreciate that. I think it's easy to get along with people. In addition to my law practice, I'm a professional mediator. So I think that's all I have to say.
So the tagline on my signs is that Aurora is stronger together, and I know that that's borrowed to some extent, but I truly believe it. And there's a lot of different ways to reach across to the other side, and I think it begins with finding common ground, and like I mentioned earlier, sharing a meal or maybe even a beer. There's been a lot of divisiveness in some respects, and I think it starts with showing respect to other people. The Lord says to love one another as you love yourself, and if you're not showing respect to other people, then you're not showing that love. And that's where it really begins, is showing respect to one another, and then looking for the common ground, and then talking in a rational, reasonable manner about whatever differences may remain. I think one of the things you're seeing right now is there's not a lot of differences between us.
I might have my facts wrong here, but I believe we share 98% of our DNA with a banana. I read that at some point on Facebook. And I think that's true right along the line. There's so much more that unites us than divides us, and I think we can all see. Actually, this has been a very pleasant evening thus far, I'll have to say. I sort of envy the village in some way, where they create their own parties and they go out there on their own and they run their campaigns. No offense to our national parties or our chairman, but I think what I hear most of all out knocking on doors is that we're all Aurorans first. It's easy to get hung up in the national stuff. And we probably, people in this room have legitimate differences on that level, but do they come into play day to day? Absolutely not. We're all good neighbors. We all just want good neighbors. We all want to live in a community of good neighbors. So in that regard, I almost question that, I almost take issue with the question, because I don't really, truly believe there is another side, unless that's the way we choose to look at it. So, with that,
This will be the last question. Given that on January 6th, 2021 was the first time since the Civil War our government had to deal with an insurrectionist attack on the Capitol, what do you intend to do to reach out to all of our neighbors?
Good to get the easy questions. I appreciate that. This is a diverse group here. I'm a endorsed Democrat. I'm an endorsed working family. My two sisters are Republican. My brother is the sheriff of Los Alamos County. I started my career in law enforcement. I work hard, and I try and get along with other people. If the elements that stormed the Capitol on January 6th want to come to East Aurora, I don't think that they're going to be welcome. We have a great police department here that has been trained and is skilled in de-escalation. I know that as an attorney. I've actually seen that on the streets with our officers. They are trained to de-escalate. We need to support our police in that way, support the good officers, and support that policy that our East Aurora Police Department has, and tell your chief that you support that.
All right. Can you hear me? Given that on January 6th, 2021 was the first time since the Civil War that our government had to deal with insurrectionist attack on the Capitol, what do you intend to do to reach out to all our neighbors?
Well, again, this is an issue of where national politics does come to our town and people disagree, but whether it was an insurrection or what their consequences were. But really at the town level, that doesn't matter that much. And it's not so much what I will done, it's what I have done. You know, going door to door, going and making myself personally available. When I go and visit people, I give them my real cell phone number. They can text me, they can call me, okay? And I do communicate with people that way on a personal level. And that's really the only way to do it, is to just keep on keeping on and open up the communication channels and let, you know, address what their concerns may be. But when we go down deeper, the concerns really are not so great.
So to completely blow apart my previous statement that we're all the same, but we do obviously have serious divisions in our nation. I think what happened on January 6th was an insurrection, but I don't think that that necessarily comes into play at the town board level. One of the promises I've made from the get-go is to be the most boring town board member in history if I'm elected, because I really only care about taxes and zoning. Now, if one of the putting on the stage runs for Congress one day, or runs for sheriff, or some of that nature, well then we're going to get into the weeds on that. There's no two ways about it. But I think it really is about being Aurorans first, and focusing on that which brings us together. Because if we try and focus on that which divides us, we'll find it, and it'll be a pretty awful situation. So I think I'd like to keep the town board race to issues of zoning and taxes and things like that. Thank you.
Going around door to door, knocking on houses, around doors rather, I didn't stop to see, is this person a Republican, is this person a Democrat? You go to the door, you knock on it, you tell them who you are, what you're doing, what you're running for. If you look at their interests rather than their positions, you can see that their interests are in what's best for the town. Whether or not we disagree on what happened on that day, it's what is the town board's goals here? It's to make sure the streets are paved, they're plowed, all the services that our town provides, zoning. If we focus on that, I think that you know, you can reach out to everybody and hear their concerns, regardless of what their positions are on a national level.
All right, and we're ready for closing statements. We will begin with Joe and then work to the left.
Once again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters. This has truly been an extremely pleasant evening, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It's a real treat to speak to so many people after speaking to ones and twos and threes and at a time. This is really an excellent opportunity. As I am running for town board, for the simple reason that I want to extend my service to my town. I believe it's a duty of everyone when they're able to, is to sort of give back to their community, to their planet, to their fellow man. I spend a lot of my time doing that. I volunteer with Jewish Family Services of Buffalo and Erie County. I volunteer with Friends of Knox Farm. I raise money for Aurora Adult Day Services. As I said before, I coach Arsenal Soccer. I was a Cub Master in Pac 584. Being of service is at my very core, and that's why I want to run for town board. I appreciate the service of Sue Fries and Jolie and Jeffy. They served on the board for 12 years. That was plenty long. I'm not making comment on the time I'm there, but they did their job. They did their duty, and it's not an easy job. And I'm happy to be of service to my town. Because like I said, my goal, my only goal, is to hand over the same or better community than I received. Because none of us own this town. We borrow it from our children and our grandchildren. And I want them to have all the same opportunities that we all have had in this community for Aurora. Thank you.
So perhaps my sense of humor and my jokes are not as able as the gentleman on my right. But I do want to say, I think that my qualifications for this job are fairly unique. I have lived in different parts of the country. I have built a house from the ground up. I've owned 4 different houses. I have been an attorney focusing on the business world for nearly 30 years. And I have contributed to every community where I have been. When I was in Florida, I helped develop soccer fields because that was something that they didn't have. Here I was able to coach, be part of scouts. Now that I'm older, more responsible, I can contribute this way. I've become the president of the New York State Collectors Association. I'm general counsel for the Great Lakes Christian Film Festival. And I just go and do these things. I'm an active member of the Sons and Sons of the American Legion. And these are all things that are very important to me, and I'm going to keep on doing those. But this is another way that I can contribute to my community and make it stronger and make it a place where when I reach retirement age that I'll be able to still be here and afford to be here and feel safe along with everybody else.
I appreciate everyone that is here today. I look out and I feel like it's Pawnee at Parks and Rec because there is so much interest here. I'm going to walk away from humility for just a minute and give you a little bit more information about myself. When I was in college at Canisius College, I was the philanthropic chairman because that's something that's very near and dear to my heart. When we moved out from Buffalo, my wife and I and our 2 sons, and now we have a 3rd son, I wanted to spend more time with them, be there for them. So I coached soccer at Aurora Arsenal for 10 years. They went to Immaculate Conception School. I coached basketball to be close to my children for 10 years. I was the varsity and junior varsity basketball coach. We started a soccer league there as well because our youngest son, Ben, fashioned himself as a world-class soccer player. We wanted to encourage that, so we started the soccer program there. From there, I met parents. 2 of they're not here tonight, but 2 parents that my wife and I have become best friends with are Bill and Carolyn Panzica from West Falls. They owned the Butterwood Bakery, and when they sold it, they kept the building. So they had the idea, why don't we turn this into a music venue? So we started, and I've been the chairman of the board since its inception, the West Falls Center for the Arts. We went from 6 events in 2015 to over 100 events in this past year, even with COVID. We serve free of charge veterans. If a veteran wants a guitar and learn how to play, they want a harmonica, learn how to play, we give it to them. We have youth orchestras that we put on stage with some of the finest world-class musicians that come in here. 2 years ago in October, it was Grammy month. We had 3 Grammy Award winners come out to West Falls from this little thing. What I bring is, and we have the seniors, the Memory Cafe, which is now in 4 different locations throughout Western New York. We bring hundreds of thousands of dollars of services to seniors, to veterans, and to youth. I would bring that to the town board, and I ask for your support.
I think a couple things are clear from tonight's discussions. Number one is we have some really big shoes to fill between Councilwoman Sue Fries and Councilwoman Jolene Jeffy, both of whom have done a tremendous job for our community, along with the rest of our town board. Another thing that is clear is that all of us candidates here clearly love our town. As living here my entire life, my grandparents settled here in the late 1940s, seems like forever ago, right? And my family's been here ever since, in the same house. My parents were in the audience tonight, raised me to be a man of service, and that is exactly why I'm running. I love our community. I love everything about Aurora. I had the opportunity to go away to school, law school in DC, but I decided to come back home because this is where I want to be. This is where I want to grow old. This is where I want to live and work and spend the rest of my days. I love this community, and I hope that tonight has been a useful event. I think it has provided us a lot of insight on all the candidates. I know I'm the youngest one up here, but I don't see my age as being a hindrance, but rather an asset. I have the will, the motivation, and the drive to do whatever it takes to be a successful board member and taking some advice from the current town board officials, I'd like to build upon that and continue to put people first over politics. Thank you.
Thank you all. And as you may remember, you will be electing 2 members to the town council. And Connor especially mentioned the 2 ladies who are retiring. So there will be 2 people to choose. Does that make it easier? I'm not so sure. Thank you so much, and thank you, gentlemen.